Welcome to the series where I review the 2025 AACE Consensus Statement on the algorithm for the evaluation and treatment of adults with obesity or adiposity-based chronic disease. This is Endo in a Bite, where I break down complex concepts into bite-sized pieces you can actually remember. Today, I'm going to talk explicitly about how money matters in obesity care, because in real clinical practice, cost coverage and step therapy requirements often determine what actually happens, not just what we would ideally prescribe. AACE has done a fantastic job on giving us a framework and telling us what to do, but there are realities of a clinical practice. This framework applies when there are no indications for specific obesity medications that have been shown to ameliorate serious complications. In other words, this is the pathway you use when you are not being forced into a complication-specific medication choice, and you are instead making a cost-conscious, stepwise decision. We start by stratifying patients by stage of adiposity-based chronic disease. In stage 1 ABCD, the recommendation is to consider first-generation obesity medication with an expected 5% to 15% weight reduction. The emphasis here is value-based care, medications with established efficacy, broader access and lower cost, while still achieving clinically meaningful weight loss. The same approach applies in stage 2 ABCD. Again, the recommendation is to consider first-generation obesity medication with an expected 5% to 15% weight reduction. Even though disease burden is greater, the algorithm intentionally preserves this step to balance clinical benefit with affordability and access. In stage 3 ABCD, the strategy changes. Here, the recommendation is to strongly prefer second-generation obesity medication with an expected greater than or equal to 15% weight reduction. This reflects the reality that advanced disease often requires more potent pharmacologic intervention. However, and this is critical, the algorithm explicitly states that a trial of first-generation obesity medication may still be required depending on cost and insurance coverage. Even when second-generation therapy is preferred, payer requirements may mandate a stepwise approach. At any point in this process, there is an override condition. If there are indications for specific obesity medications that have been shown to ameliorate serious complications, then you do not stay in this cost-based pathway. In that situation, treatment should be guided by complication-centric medication selection rather than cost containment. Once therapy is initiated, the next decision point is response. If there is a good or excellent response to therapy, defined as adequate weight reduction to achieve clinical goals, obesity treatment transitions into chronic therapy. At that stage, clinicians should consider a cost-effective maintenance plan and taper or discontinue treatment if doing so is clinically appropriate and feasible. The assumption here is that obesity is a chronic disease, and maintenance matters just as much as induction. Now, if there is an insufficient response to therapy, defined as inadequate weight reduction to achieve clinical goals, the recommendation is to change or intensify therapy. This includes intensifying lifestyle intervention, considering first-generation obesity medication or combination therapy, if not contraindicated, or switching to an alternative first-generation medication. Importantly, if cost and access allow, clinicians should switch to a more effective second-generation obesity medication. And the algorithm also clearly defines medication classes. First-generation obesity medications include phentermine with topiramate extended release, naltrexone with bupropion extended release, and liraglutide. Second-generation more effective obesity medications include semaglutide and tirzepatide. So the core message is this. This is not an hierarchy of what works. It's an hierarchy of what can be accessed, what can be sustained, and what is required before escalation. The algorithm acknowledges that obesity care lives at the intersection of evidence, economics, and insurance design. And it provides a structured way to deliver effective treatment without ignoring financial reality. That's what it looks like when obesity is treated as a chronic disease, not just biologically, but practically. This was another bite-sized episode of Endo in a Bite. In the next few episodes, we will be working through the details of the AACE consensus statement, the algorithm for the evaluation and treatment of adults with obesity or adiposity-based chronic disease, the 2025 update. Remember to visit www.easyendoprep.com to sign up for the weekly newsletter and have all the key pearls delivered straight to your inbox. You can also purchase the full board review course there for deeper learning and ABIM exam prep. Let's get through this document one bite at a time.